everybody. Mark Levin here. Our number, 877-381-3811. 877-381-3811. The person or people who are involved in planning these bombs need to be found as quickly as possible to get some resolution here. Because the speculation is already beginning. It's like after a mass shooting, it just can't stop. And the speculation is being promoted in the media and by politicians, and that's who always promotes the speculation. It's a deadly serious matter. I underline the word deadly. Deadly. We've talked about the rise in violence in this country and our concern about it, about Antifa and Black Lives Matter, and about attacking public officials in restaurants. And we've said over and over somebody's going to get hurt. Now, we have no idea who's behind this. We have no idea of the quote-unquote political affiliation of the people behind it. We know all of those targeted are Democrats and CNN. That we know. But why comment beyond that? Because we don't know anything else. And yet, that's what's taking place now. And there's something really grotesque about the media in this country going on and on today about the heated rhetoric, the hateful rhetoric. Do the media in this country understand that they are leading the charge on the heated and hateful rhetoric? Do you know, yesterday alone, Donald Trump, I counted four times, was compared to Adolf Hitler on MSNBC and CNN. 6 times he was called a racist. And yet they want to know if Donald Trump is responsible for the heated and hateful
keep within their societies, not working with others outside of their societies, and suppress individuals within those societies to win the goals of what they're looking for. So those are very dangerous words, but I think it reveals...
It's a very dangerous word, nationalist. It's a very, very dangerous... You got to listen to me throughout the program. I'm going to hit this very, very importantly in the next few minutes. Go ahead.
We know this president is.
Well, I just want to be precise, Congressman. You're making a comparison between the President of the United States and Hitler, and I want you to explain exactly what you mean, because obviously this is controversial.
Well, what I'm saying is that using the word of nationalism, and a nationalist, meaning that, you know, when you listen to Hitler, he was talking about German for the Germans, and that's it.
Oh, come on. And Franklin Roosevelt was looking at America for the Americans. These are historically illiterate human beings that we have to listen to. He's not alone. Max Boot on CNN yesterday. Cut 18, go.
It has disturbing historical echoes to me, Wolf. Now, nationalism has meant a lot of things over the years, and in the 19th century it was primarily associated with liberal movements, people like Theodore Herzl, the founder of Zionism, or Giuseppe Garibaldi, who helped to create the state of Italy, or Bolivar, who helped to create the states of Colombia and Venezuela. But in the 20th century, nationalism has taken on a much darker
agents in his administration. According to the TampaBay.com site, undercover FBI agents paid for Tallahassee Mayor Andrew Gillum's hotel room and his ticket to the Broadway musical Hamilton during a 2016 trip to New York City, according to a bombshell trove of records that raises new questions 2 weeks before the November 6th election for Florida governor. He has been lying about this through his teeth, and I'll get to that in a minute. Among the records released, and CNN and MSNBC won't even touch this story. Neither will any of the big networks. They won't touch it. It's all local news. Because they promote him like they promote this fool Robert Francis, quote-unquote, Beto O'Rourke in Texas. Right, Mr. Zucker? Among the records released this past Tuesday, photos, a video, and dozens of text messages between Gillum, who's the Democrat nominee for governor, former lobbyist Adam Corey, and an undercover FBI agent. They appear to contradict Gillum's explanation for the expenses, which have been made a major issue by his Republican rival Ron DeSantis. Gillum's campaign has maintained and continued to do so Tuesday. So after the release of the records, they continue to lie. That Gillum's brother, Marcus Gillum, handed him the ticket the night of the show. He didn't want to know from Butkus. His brother just gave me the ticket. What's the big deal? That's not what happened. The text messages at the time of the trip show Gillum was told. He was told the tickets came from Mike Miller, an FBI agent looking into city corruption who was posing as a developer. Came from Mike Miller, posing as a developer who was an undercover FBI agent. Mike Miller and the crew have tickets for us for Hamilton tonight at 8 p.m., Corey texted Gillum on August 10, 2016. Hey, awesome news about Hamilton, Gillum replied, according to the records. The campaign has not said how Marcus Gillum, who lives in Chicago, Illinois, came by such a sought-after Broadway ticket, or whether Andrew Gillum asked his brother about it. These messages only confirm what we've said all along, Andrew Gillum said on Facebook Live. So, in the face of his lies, caught with actual hard evidence, Andrew Gillum says, see, they confirm what we said all along, because he knows there's enough stupid people out there who will just dismiss it. We did go to see Hamilton, he said. I did get my ticket to Hamilton from my brother, and at the time we believed that they were reserved by friends of Adams, Mike Miller. And when I got there after work, got my ticket, we went in there and saw it. Assume my brother paid for it, and so as far as I know, that was the deal. Yeah, no big deal. Now, he knows that wasn't the deal. The new records came from Chris Kise, K-I-S-E, an attorney representing Corey. That's the lobbyist. Kise said he gave the records to the Florida Commission on Ethics, which is investigating a complaint about Gillum's trips to New York City and Costa Rica with Corey. He then gave copies to the campaigns of Gillum and DeSantis. Once a close friend of Gillum's, the lobbyist, Corey, is at the center of the FBI's long-running probe into corruption in Tallahassee. No one has been charged, and Gillum has said that agents assured him he was neither a target nor a focus of the probe. Well, if he's obviously part of the probe, can you imagine if Trump had done this? Those impeachment charges would be all drawn up by now. Gillum has repeatedly given vague answers to questions about who paid for the New York City trip. His avoidance of a direct answer became pronounced during a Sunday debate on CNN between DeSantis and Gillum. And by the way, Jake Tapper did nothing to follow up. Nothing. Did you pay for the Hamilton tickets? DeSantis asked. First of all, I'm a grown man, Gillum replied. My wife and I take vacations. We pay for our own vacation. No, you didn't. You're a grown man and you didn't pay for your own vacation. I don't take free trips from anybody. Yes, you did. You took a free trip from the FBI. I'm a hard-working person. I know that may not fit your description of what you think people like me do. Listen to the race car. But I've worked hard for everything that I've gotten in my life. Well, you didn't work hard for that hotel room, and you didn't work hard for those tickets, pal. We used to call that graft where I grew up. But notice, I don't take free trips from anybody. I'm a hardworking person. I know that may not fit your description of what you think people like me do. Sickening. The new records go beyond Broadway tickets. They show that undercover FBI agents posing as businessmen were working for months to get an out-of-state meeting with Gillum, and that Gillum appeared willing to oblige them. In June 2016, Corey, the lobbyist, texted Miller, the undercover FBI agent, telling him that he would discuss options with Gillum. I just want to make it a good trip, and Sweets and B will be booked on something else if we don't lock something down, Miller replied. Mike Sweets and Brian Butler were the two other undercover FBI agents posing as businessmen. The lobbyist Corey then followed up proposing to meet in Las Vegas. AG Andrew Gillum thinks Vegas in August is an easier option for him, Corey texted Miller, referring to Gillum. He's double-checking availability with his office now. Stand by. So instead of Las Vegas, they met in New York while Gillum was attending a conference on behalf of the People for the American Way Foundation, a liberal advocacy group that employed him. That would be a left-wing group. Text messages show Miller, that is the undercover FBI agent, paid for the airfare and hotel room for Gillum's brother, Marcus. Send me the mayor and his brother's information and I will have my girl book their flights, Miller wrote. Corey, the lobbyist, replied that Gillum had already booked his flight, but he would send his brother's information ASAP. Just tell them to let me know what their flights cost and I will cover it, Miller said. The ethics complaint was filed against Gillum in June this year, and Gillum met with investigators in early September. Keyes, the attorney for Corey, the lobbyist, was issued a subpoena for records on October 15, last Monday, was releasing the records now because they were going to become public anyway. He said they showed Corey did not participate in any criminal activity. It's rare but not unprecedented for the commission to use its subpoena power as it did in the Gillum case. By law, ethics complaints are confidential until they are dismissed. A probable cause finding is made or the target of a complaint voluntarily waives confidentiality, which Gillum did not do. Now, the document dump on Tuesday was the type of event Democrats feared when Gillum won the party's nomination in August, but hoped would never come. Though supporters generally dismissed the significance of the texts and emails between Gillum and lobbyist Corey, one Democrat consultant acknowledged that anyone on the fence about Gillum could be deflated. The timing of the release, exactly 2 weeks before Election Day and on the second day of early voting, comes during a key period and goes on and on. But the Democrats don't have a problem with this. Hillary Clinton was in South Florida a couple days ago. She raised $2.5 million for Gillum. She could care less about any of this. The question is, will the people of Florida? You have a leftist, a hardcore radical leftist, who is in fact a hack. I'll be right back. Well, I have a short period of time here. Boy, are these elections consequential, aren't they? I really don't believe we want to turn any element of the federal government, at least not right now, over to this force on the left to give them a foothold. I really don't. There's so many things we need to do in this country. If we can hold the House and pick up some senators, we may well be able to secure that southern border, and that is crucially important. Despite what the left says, they're irrelevant. They have no intention of doing any of it. I told you yesterday, and I meant it. I meant it. There are hostile governments that are rooting for the success of the Democrat Party in this election cycle. You can bet Cuba, Iran. You can bet China, Russia. You can bet North Korea. They want to see this president crippled. They want to see him bogged down in his own country by the House of Representatives while they exercise their muscle, while they build up their military, while they take more and more aggressive actions. The left in this country and our enemies overseas have something in common. You have to admit it. They want to see the destruction of Donald Trump, our commander-in-chief. And if he wasn't an outstanding commander-in-chief, they wouldn't give a damn. But they care very much because he's been an outstanding commander-in-chief. I want you to keep that in mind. We'll be right back. What do you think any responsible president would do or would have done with thousands and thousands of illegal aliens heading toward our border? Other than Barack Obama. What do you think any president would have done? Eisenhower, Truman, Kennedy, Nixon, either of the Bushes, Ford, Reagan. What do you think they would have done when people are trying to invade the country right in our face? Only Obama and only the modern Democrats and the media today find something notorious in efforts to try and stop what's taking place here. It is they who are out of line. It is they who are out of sync. And now we'll watch very carefully tonight, tomorrow, and the next day, see how they try to exploit what's taking place today. They're right on the precipice. They're getting there. You can see it. You can smell it. You can feel it. They're right on the precipice. Zucker's already done it. He's blamed Trump. Soros' son has already done it. He's blamed Trump. And quite frankly, Schumer and Pelosi, in the statement they released today, they blame Trump. Their viciousness in the Kavanaugh hearings, their silence in the face of Antifa, their surrogates on cable TV, encouraging people to confront Ted Cruz or Sarah Sanders or the head of DHS or whomever in restaurants and so forth. Watching the media sit silently as Antifa is beating people's brains out. The language they use in talking about the President of the United States, Hitler, deranged, mentally ill, racist, xenophobic, it just pours from their mouth. Like the word the or the word is. And they accept no responsibility, none, for what they're doing and have done to this nation. Well, they may not accept it, but we place it. Mr. Zucker, you're at the lead of the caravan on this one. So is Phil What's-His-Face over there at MSNBC. I actually forgot his last name. Darren, Denver, Colorado, the great KVOR. Go.
Hey, Mark.
Yes, sir.
Call. Listen, I just heard a comment in regards to your...
Talk right into the mouthpiece. It's very difficult to hear you.
Yeah, I had a comment in regards to the CNN earlier and Zucker. So, I used to be a...
All right, Mr. Call Screener, let's call... I guess that's Darren. Is that who we're talking to? Let's call Darren back. I can't understand him. Let's get a clear line if he's available. Sorry about that, Darren. Let us go to Scott, West Branch, Michigan, on the Mark Levin app. Go right ahead.
Hi, Mark. Just wanted to, I'm a retired engineer, and I don't believe in speculating, but as I listen to the media today, I'm hearing immediately it must be someone who hates the Democrats, and that's why they're going after them. And then I look at what's happening with the caravan, and that there's been speculation about the leftists supporting the caravan and those people and driving them forward. And I'm curious, is it really a right wing person that may be planning these pipe bombs, or is it really a leftist ploy to affect the elections in November?
Well, we're going to find out, I hope, one way or the other. I'm not going to speculate on this, but people have said that to me, that it really doesn't make a hell of a lot of sense to do this close to the election and then turn off all these people against the Republicans. I have no idea whatsoever. And I'm not going to get into this speculation stuff.
I agree. It's become so crazy lately on what.
But I do know the media in this country have taken us to a very dark place. The media in this country, throw around the words Hitler and Nazis and stuff like this, and they know better than this. And it's day in and day out. They know what they're doing. They become propaganda mills. If they don't like what the president says and they don't like the way he says it, fine, report it. But listen to how they talk. They're supposed to be news people.
And they're not.
And, we get to vote for president and so forth. We don't get to vote for Don Lemon. We don't get to vote for this one or that one who's on these cable networks. They're hired by these major corporations. And other than Fox, which really is balanced, when you look at some of the liberals they have on there, and some of the libertarians who are also liberals in many respects, depending on who they are on Fox and so forth, some of the former Obama staffers that they hire there. When you look at these other networks, they're propaganda mills. All right, my friend, I appreciate your call. Let's go to Mike, Tallahassee, Florida, the great WFLA, our great affiliate there. Go right ahead.
Hey, just listening in on you tonight, and you're spot on our mayor. I've been in Tallahassee for 36 years, and conservatives in Tallahassee, a very liberal town. But in previous years, we've had Republican leadership, but it really comes from outside the city, a statewide leadership. But our mayor, it's hard to believe he's our mayor. It's really hard to believe he's won the Democratic.
Yeah, the problem is the people outside of the Tallahassee metropolitan area really don't understand who this Gillum is, and he's spending millions and millions of dollars and getting an enormous amount of free media remaking himself. And the national media want him to be remade. He's a lousy, failed mayor. He's a hardcore leftist. He drove your taxes up. Crime is up, despite what he says. He's run that city into the ground.
Well, I don't know where his income comes from. He's been working for Norman Lear, People American Way, and for Soros for years, since he's been in college. He works for an attorney now, and really the attorney worked for Norman Lear, and then when he started running for governor, they changed up the way it's run, and now he works for the attorney. But his money's still coming from Lear and Soros. He made $250 or $250,000 last year, and we don't know where it came from. The last 2 years.
Now, what do you mean? I don't mean to be ignorant about this, so edify me. He worked for Norman Lear. You mean People for the American Way, right?
Yes. He worked.
Which is a radical left-wing organization funded by Hollywood.
He's still working for him. There's an attorney in Tallahassee. There's a lady. I can't recall her name. I can look it up. There's a guy in the morning. Our morning conservative radio host. I listen to her more, but he's been telling it for years, and nobody will listen. But
okay, I'm listening now. Tell us.
Well, it's a shell game. He's been working for Norman Lear, and then when he started running for governor, they changed the office, and the lady who's the attorney that works for Norman Lear, now he's working for her.
Yeah, so because they want to change. They don't want people to know who he is.
Yeah, it's a shell game. It's a shell game. He puts up these things just like what you pointed out, which we've been talking about for a couple of years now, with the corruption and the FBI investigation has been going on for a while now. So
tell me something. Jake Tapper was the moderator of a debate a few days ago. How come he didn't bring any of this up?
Yeah, that's crazy. It should have been. In the summer, his Democratic opponent should have brought it up. Corruption's corruption. But DeSantis, finally someone is exposing him 2 weeks before the election. He needed to be exposed months and months ago. He really doesn't need to be in the office of mayor. He needs to be kicked out of mayor. His whole staff's been under corruption. It's crazy. He's had chief counsels got in trouble for taking tickets from Florida State football games, and it's corruption. All right,
my friend. I appreciate your call. Almost like the Keating 5 stuff with tickets and so forth and so on, but again, the media are covering this up, the national media. The local media is starting to get on this and starting to report it, like the Tampa Bay site. But the national media could give a damn. I even look on some of our friendly websites. It's not on there. I'll be right back. By the way, we're going to have full election coverage on election night from 6 to 9 p.m. Eastern Time here. You don't want to miss it. Now, if your affiliate is stupid enough to not carry my program, you can listen to it on Mark Levin app, on iHeartRadio app. You can listen to it streaming. You can listen to it on satellite radio. So we will be here no matter what, 6 to 9 p.m. On election night. And nobody covers these elections better than I. We have a historical record here that's really quite amazing. I think you'll find it really amazing. I want you to listen before I go to CRTV to Andrew Gillum on Facebook Live today when he was caught in his lie about taking tickets from the FBI in a hotel room and so forth. Cut 12, go.
The Republicans obviously want to distract, want to suggest. All along throughout this trail, they've wanted people of the state to believe that somehow I'm haven't deserved what I've gotten. I'm unethical, participate in illegal and illicit activity. I mean, you name it. The goal is obviously to use my candidacy as a way to reinforce, frankly, stereotypes about black men.
Oh, cut it out. Stereotypes about black men? What, they take hotel rooms and free tickets and trips to Costa Rica from the FBI? Is that a stereotype about black men? You know, people will be really incensed about the way he's using his race, particularly people who share his race, about how he's wrapping himself in this and takes no personal responsibility. That wasn't the black community who got on that airplane. That wasn't the black community who took tickets for Hamilton. That's not the black community that's under investigation by undercover FBI agents. It's not the black community that went to Costa Rica. It's you, Mr. Gillum. Take responsibility for your own actions. It's you. It has nothing to do with your race. And this is how he hopes to dupe people. This is how he hopes to dupe people. How did CNN cover this, Mr. Producer? Cut 13, go.
I think most American voters assume that politicians are not totally clean. I mean, they assume that they hang out with some people whom they take favors from and that sort of thing. And
that's enough. And he goes on. This guy's Frank Brunei, CNN contributor. Hey, what's the big deal? We assume politicians aren't clean. What's the big deal? So he's not clean. We want him to be elected. That's all. What's the big deal? That's your news media, Mr. Zucker. That's your network, Mr. Zucker. That's your Democrat nominee, ladies and gentlemen, in Florida. Bill, Willow City, North Dakota, the great WZFG. Go.
Thank you, sir, for taking my call.
Okay.
I'm calling about the bombs, and just because of what I used to do in the military.
What did you do?
I was 18 Charlie.
You were a bomb maker.
Well, yes and no. As part of the job, there's many other things I did. But just in the way the packages are wrapped, it takes away from the handling, and it leaves it open for anybody to get hit, not the specific target. And that's why I say there's a faulty. Also, how can pipe bombs go through an X-ray machine and not get picked up? Because all mail goes through a centralized station because of things in the past.
I see.
So that creates...
Well, many of them did get picked up.
Well, they did, but some not directly at the post office, from my understanding. But I'm still doing more research.
Mm-hmm.
Because I just picked this story up because I don't have TV or any of that. I just listen to the radio and different things.
Well, I want to thank you for listening to me. All right, my friend, I appreciate your call and your service. Let's go to Frank, Jersey City, New Jersey, the great WABC. Go.
Hey, first of all, thanks for taking my call and accept my condolences. You have a great show, and I just hope the people out there realize that this midterm election is probably the most important one we've had in maybe this country's history. This country's at a precipice right now. It can go one way or the other, and if people don't realize that, and every Democrat out there should actually be voting for the Republican Party, because not socialists, but Democrats, because hardworking people have a lot to lose. That being said, Mark, tonight on TV, I was watching a CBS at the gym, and I see along the bottom on the national news and CBS words to the effect of explosive language, making reference, of course, to the president in light of the bombings, these pipe bombs, and then saying that a pipe bomb person sent these bombs to the targets of the president's explosive language, strongly implying that the president is at fault for this.
Yeah, it's so horrific what the left has turned into, but the media leads the charge. Thanks for your call. We'll be right back. Hello, everybody. Mark Levin here. Our number, 877-381-3811. 877-381-3811. It's a great piece of conservative review by our buddy Daniel Horowitz. In just 17 months, illegal alien family units increased by 960% at the border. 960%. There are a lot more than roughly 14,000 people seeking to invade our border, he writes. The American people are rightfully concerned about the brazen caravan, quote-unquote, of invaders headed for our southern border and fully expect that it will be stopped at all costs before it reaches our border, not in our courtrooms. However, we must not lose sight of the likely 800,000-strong quiet invasion at a less public level that is crossing our border this year. Brand new data from Customs and Border Protection should mobilize Trump and Republicans to not just focus on the caravan, but on finally stopping the broader invasion in its entirety. According to Customs and Border Protection, that's CBP, roughly 400,000 illegals were caught sneaking in between our points of entry in fiscal year 2018, and it's not even over. Another roughly 125,000 presenting themselves at the port of entry in FY 2018 were deemed inadmissible. The fact that the overall numbers increased by 106,000 from FY 2017 is enough of a concern, but several other data points are even more concerning. The trajectory and the nature of the border crossings are what should really worry us. First, it's important to remember that border agents will tell you that the U.S. typically apprehends only about 50% of those who illegally cross the border. That means that there were likely close to 800,000 people who crossed the border last year, not at our points of entry. Now, as such, it's not just the several 100,000 illegals that were released into our population after being apprehended that should concern those who care about their communities and schools. What's more concerning are the people we never apprehend, who most likely are more dangerous than the ones we did apprehend. As Brandon Judd, president of the Border Patrol Council, explained several months ago to Horowitz, the criminal cartels are pushing them, that is these family units, in front as the sacrificial lambs, forcing me to use my resources to take them into custody so that they can then cross the dangerous criminals right behind them. And we play into their hands by continuing to humanize the way things are happening on the border. It's more than humanize. We romanticize it, ladies and gentlemen. Now, just from a drug crisis standpoint, the hundreds of thousands of undetected illegals coming in every year, thanks to the fake sympathy over families, is terrifying. As the LA Times wrote in a recent report, quote, Chinese companies send fentanyl in small quantities to dealers in the United States or Canada, but ship the drugs in bulk to criminal cartels in Mexico. Well, then what happens? The cartels then mix the synthetics into heroin and other substances, or press them in the counterfeit pills. The product is then smuggled across the border. So you have the Chinese government working with Mexican cartels. The president is signing a series of opioid bills today, all of which fail to recognize this premise as the main cause of the 72,000 annual deaths. The next data point that should concern us is the trajectory of the increase, which is unfathomable. While the overall numbers aren't higher than they were during Obama, that is because the numbers dropped to a once-in-a-generation low during the first few months of Trump's presidency, just based on the perception that he'd enforce our sovereignty. Since illegals saw that nothing changed, the numbers surged beyond belief, and the president has been trying over and over again. He's been telling us he wants to make changes, but the Democrats in Congress are blocking him. And so are some Republicans, by the way. A total of 16,658 family units, these are nuclear families, were caught between the points of entry in September, a new record and a sharp spike from the previous months. In total, 161,113 family units were apprehended this year. Remember, only 1.4% of the family units apprehended last year were deported, so almost all of them remain in our communities, along with the nearly 500,000 others who were never apprehended, and this is growing every year. So now we've gotten to almost 700,000. And it goes on. This is an incredibly serious matter, of course. National sovereignty, the rule of law, the nature of our immigration system. It's being openly and brazenly violated, and not just by aliens, by people in our own country. By people in our own country. Now, we spent a lot of time last night. It's been picked up by a lot of news outlets, conservative news outlets, since today, as we have in the past on this issue, pointing out the hypocrisy of the Democrats. Hillary Clinton, Bill Clinton, Barack Obama, Bernie Sanders, Chuck Schumer, and many others. Harry Reid. The positions that they took 10 years ago, 15 years ago, 25 years ago. The positions that they took on illegal immigration. First of all, they called them illegal immigrants. As recently as 2009, 2010, Chuck Schumer called them illegal immigrants. As a matter of fact, he admonished his audience in 2009. He said, look, if you don't use the word illegal, then you lose essentially the moral high ground. What is this undocumented stuff, he said. Now, of course, he's reversed course, because they're all about power and politics, not about country. So what's the point? The point is the Democrat Party is not even the Democrat Party of 10 years ago. It's certainly not the Democrat Party of 20 years ago. Its position on immigration, like its position on economics, like its position on the military, like its position on health care, embraces increasingly radical policies and attitudes. And it's not going to get any better. It's going to get worse. If the media really want to understand the division in this country, they need only look at themselves and look at the course the Democrat Party has taken. You have a party where John Kennedy couldn't be nominated for the presidency today. You have a party where Bill Clinton couldn't be nominated for the presidency today. You have a party that wouldn't nominate Harry Truman for the presidency today. And I could go down the list. And so now you have individuals who want to out-radical each other. Tell me, who is a centrist in the Democrat leadership? Or a so-called moderate? Can you name one? Just name one. Well, I can't name any. I don't see them. Do you? All right. By the way, we have a wonderful guest at the bottom of the hour. I told you each night now we'll have one or two candidates on here. There are many who are deserving of support, and you know who they are, but it doesn't work that way on radio. This can't be a conga line of candidates. Let's go to Billy, Los Angeles, California, 870 The Answer, KRLA. Go.
Mr. Levin, thank you very much for taking my call. I just want to I just want to add in my little 2 cents here. I'll be real quick about this caravan. California,
it's not a caravan, it's an invasion.
It is an invasion, and I don't know why I called it a caravan. It is an invasion, and Los Angeles...
Like I said yesterday, next thing you know, they'll call it a parade. Anyway, go ahead.
Yes. Los Angeles is becoming Tijuana. They've just made this new law where anybody could sell anything on the sidewalk. And if you drive around on the weekend through Los Angeles, it looks like Tijuana. And
well, isn't that nice?
Pardon?
So we're assimilating into Tijuana rather than the other way around.
Yeah, and I've had people at work saying, well, you should speak Spanish. You should learn Spanish. And I
don't want to learn Spanish. Why should I?
Yeah, and I come from a very democratic family. I come from Scranton, Pennsylvania, where my family were coal miners. And the Democratic Party really looked out for the working class, and they don't anymore. The Democrats have completely gone so far left that they don't care about the working class in America anymore. And, the biggest thing that bugs me, I want the wall, but I think the biggest thing that could be done is it's both sides. It's if you really enforced E-Verify and you went to these people and you said, okay, every illegal alien that you hire, we're going to fine you $10,000 a week. And I think Trump was behind it. And if I'm not mistaken, that was brought up during this whole Dreamer thing.
Well, I'll give you another one. Why don't we enforce our visa rules? 45% of the people here illegally come through the front door and overstay their visas.
Yeah, exactly. And it's just really frustrating because I'm a Republican in Los Angeles, and I don't keep my mouth shut. I let everybody know how I feel. Not and I usually do it in a humorous way, so I don't cause any type of problem. But I can't wait to get out of California because the Southwest and Texas and so many other states from this invasion are going to be turning into a third world.
Isn't it amazing? People with maybe not in your case, but people who've been in California, their ancestors, they've had generations of family members in California. They're the ones now immigrating to other states while people are coming here illegally from south of the border. It's really incredible.
Yeah, it's very pathetic. It's just going to be, I keep telling my friends, in 20 years, it's going to be maids and multimillionaires, and the middle class is going to be out of California. Mm-hmm. Anyways, I really appreciate your what you do for all of us on your side, and have a wonderful day.
The only side I'm on is the side of the Constitution, the sign of individual liberty, and the sign of private property. We call that capitalism. Thank you, my friend. That's my side. John, Lake Havasu City. KNTR, a great affiliate. Go ahead.
Good evening, Mark. Thanks for taking my call. You got a great show.
Thank you.
Hey, I just wanted to touch one moment on immigration. 58 years ago, JFK said that America has a limited capacity for taking in immigrants. That's why we have a lawful immigration program. The problem has been occurring for, 58 years, 60 years. We've had immigration problems. It was a problem back in 1960. It's a problem today. The people that are responsible are the tenured Congress people in the House and in the Senate. Okay, the people have been there 25 and 30 years. What can we do to solve it? People want term limits. People want.
Well, why don't you tell me what we can do to solve it?
The term limit.
Mm-hmm. Well, you think Congress is going to pass term limits?
No, they're not.
So how do we get them?
Power. The people.
So how do we get term limits? You asked me a question and you're talking over me. So how do we get term limits?
We already have them. The people set the term limits by going out and voting out.
You just said to me we need to set term limits, and now you're telling me the people set the term limits. I thought you meant from a constitutional perspective. We all know that people have the power to vote people in and out of office.
Limit.
We have term limits. Thanks for your call. I can't stand it when I can't communicate with somebody and have a conversation. It's obvious we know we have the power to vote people out of office, but when you get into states, certain one-party states, it becomes almost impossible, doesn't it? We have a term limit for a president of the United States. The Constitution was amended to provide for it. No president can serve more than 10 years or 2 terms. Period. We do not have term limits for members of Congress. I think we need them desperately. The only way to get that is through convention of states. Congress isn't going to term limit itself. These guys like power. So it needs to come from the bottom up. And if you don't know what convention of states is, you go to their website and read about them. Conventionofstates.com. Couldn't be simpler. I wrote an entire book on the process called The Liberty Amendments. So when people say, what do? I don't know what else to do. I spent 16 months writing a book explaining the process and my proposed reform amendments. There's an organization out there that breaks its back every single day, trying to encourage people to participate in it. I mean, we can't do it for you. Everybody has to do it for themselves and participate in this process. There ought to be constitutional term limits. But that's not enough. There's a lot that needs to be done. We need to limit the ability of the government to borrow money. We need to limit spending to a percentage of the gross domestic product. We need to limit, as a constitutional matter, regulations in this country that are imposed on us by unelected bureaucrats. There's a number of things we need to do. That's why I have 11 reform amendments to get people to think about these things. And I suspect it'll get bad enough in this country one day when people will embrace it. I don't know if it'll be in my lifetime or not. No way of knowing. We'll be right back.
Mark Levin.
Let's go to Tom, Atlanta, Georgia, the great WYAY country. Go.
Hey, Mark. Thanks for all you do. And, you know, dictators have always got the press and the media controlled and on their side. So when the big media accuses Trump of being a dictator and a Nazi and a Hitler and all this stuff, I don't think it really applies because he's gone after the big media. And so this is totally oxymoronic or paradoxical or whatever you want to say.
Well, no, but this is a very interesting point. Your point would be then Barack Obama would be, and his relationship with the media would be more akin to what they accused Trump and his relationship with the media to be.
Thank you, sir. And just another example of leftist sinister projection. And one more quick point, sir. The word in Latin for left is sinister, which perfectly describes everything about the left. And if we just keep that little tidbit in mind, I think that's a gift from above for us to know that. Then I think all will be well.
Well, I'm a little rusty on my Latin, you know.
But, you know, I had to go to some medical training, and so I learned left and right and different words like that in Latin. Right hand is mono dexter, and left hand is mono sinister. That's why the nuns used to wail on us when we tried to use our left hand back in the day.
All right, my friend. There you go. We learn something every day. Thank you. Let's go to Susan, Beverly Hills, California, 870 The Answer. Go.
Hi, Mark. Thank you for taking my call. As I was telling your screener, this has been so obvious to me what the left is doing. They started all the civil war stuff in Libya, then all Arabs, Middle Eastern...
Wait a minute, the left in our country started the civil war in Libya?
No. Whoever is behind all of these. They took over Europe by Arab Muslims, refugees. If you remember, it wasn't that long ago. And they are doing the same thing with the U.S., with...
All right, my friend, I have to go. No offense. I'm not sure where we're headed with this. Anyway, I'll be right back. You know, there's a race for the Senate in Mississippi. It's not talked about much outside of Mississippi. And there's a gentleman running who I've always been a big fan of, and his name is Chris McDaniel, and he's running for the Senate in Mississippi. How are you, sir?
Hey, I'm great, Mark. Thank you for having me, sir.
Well, it's my pleasure. And explain to everybody in the nation, as well as in Mississippi, how this particular election works.
Well, it's a special election. You might recall that in 2014, I ran against a 41-year incumbent by the name of Thad Cochran, and we defeated Mr. Cochran the first night. He came back out, and he scared 40,000 Democrats into a Republican primary, and they stole the race from us in 2014. Well,
I remember that.
Yes, sir. Just like the establishment does, they then time Senator Cochran's stepping down perfectly so they can hand-select the next senator from the state of Mississippi, which so happens to be a lifetime Democrat, Hillary Clinton supporter by the name of Cindy Hyde-Smith. So they appoint her to the position, and now that means we're in a special race to fulfill the remainder of Thad's term. So 4 people in the race, nonpartisan. That is, no parties declared. And what happens is the top two advance to a 3-week runoff after November the 6th. But the bottom line here, Mark, is here we are again. Us versus the establishment. Conservatives versus the same old machine. And this time we're going to take them out.
Why would the governor, Brian, I believe his name is, why would he appoint somebody who's been a lifelong Democrat, who voted for Hillary Clinton, who more recently became a Republican? Why would he appoint her to the Senate?
Well, Mark, I think this may surprise some of your listeners, but Mitch McConnell doesn't like me very much, and I don't like him very much either. So with that said, Mitch McConnell met with the governor, and his instructions to the governor were anyone but McDaniel. So sure enough, they polled all the statewide against me, and they didn't work out very well. So they finally found this one person who didn't have much name ID. The thought process was, despite the fact that she was a lifetime Democrat, we can appoint her, we can raise a whole bunch of money, we can define her as a Republican, even though she hasn't been, and she may have a great chance to win. So that's why it was. Mitch McConnell hand-selected this person to be the appointee.
You know, I know there's a lot of my conservative brothers and sisters out there who now think the world of Mitch McConnell. I do not. I think what he did in the case of Kavanaugh is something that any Republican leader must do and should have done if they can't deliver a Supreme Court position when they control the majority in the Senate. I don't care how small the majority is. That would have sank the Republican Party for a decade, in my view. Now, having said that, it's actually more than that. You are a constitutional conservative. Explain your views.
Well, I'll go all the way back. I was the state's lawyer against Obamacare. I represented the lieutenant governor and 10 other petitioners against Obamacare. But here are my positions, I guess, outlined for you. I believe strongly in the Constitution. I'm an originalist by orientation. I've read your book, Men in Black. I understand the power of the court. And the bottom line here is we've got to find people that can construe the document as originally intended. And that means rejecting this living Constitution nonsense that's pushed by the likes of Kennedy and Sotomayor and the like. We need to find more Scalias, more Clarence Thomases, more individuals like Gorsuch that can stand and construe this document the way it was meant to be. And what that means simply is the federal government is way too large. It's doing way too much. Article 1, Section 8 gives it all the power it's supposed to have. All the other powers belong to the states and the people, respectively. So in every vote that we cast and every speech that we give, the idea is to decentralize the power of the federal government and give those powers back to the people.
Chris McDaniel, tell us about your race in Mississippi. How's it going?
It's going very, very well. Obviously, the establishment, they work hard to cut off our money supplies. That's one of the big fights that we always have. When you stand up against the establishment, when you push back, they punish conservatives for doing that. And yet we still have to have the courage and the guts to push back because they cannot be allowed to destroy this country the way they have over the last several years. So what happens is they turn off our spigots of money, and we have to find new ways to raise it. And despite that would be an outspent 10-1, we're still winning the race. There's at least one PAC poll shows us up between 8 and 10. Other polls whispered around town show us up 2 or 3. Other polls show us down 5. The bottom line is we're winning this race. We have 5,000 volunteers on the ground. We have a superior ground game, superior social media presence. And if we can just get enough help to block and tackle for the next few days, we're going to win this race outright.
Now, win it outright. It's the top 2 vote getters, or if you get over 50%, you're in?
Yes, sir, that's the case. Over 50%, we're in. But there's good news there in any event. Despite the fact if we just barely get under the 50% and we're forced into a runoff, that naturally makes us the winner, and I'll tell you why. It's called enthusiasm. It's called motivation. Our base is ready to fight. They're ready to rumble, and we have a lot of people out there. They're going to vote rain, sleet, shine. It doesn't matter. So we're excited about that. So
if the people around the country want to assist you with donations, and the people in Mississippi want to assist you with donations and going door to door, where do they go?
McDaniel2018.com is the website. McDaniel2018.com. And, of course, on social media, Senator Chris McDaniel on Twitter and Facebook. And I'm going to tell you something. I want you guys to think about this. If you can't find a conservative in a state like Mississippi to fight for you, where are you going to find it? New York can't do this for you. California can't do this for you. It has to be the Deep South. You send me to Washington, I will fight every day to restore our Constitution and to finally get Trump's agenda passed. No more obstructionism, Mitch McConnell. We're going to get it passed once and for all.
I think people forget that so much of Trump's agenda that he requires legislation has been left on the cutting floor, including the issue of the wall and immigration and the massive spending. They give Trump these bills that increase defense spending, which we all want, and then it increases spending across the board. And this is a huge problem.
Yes, sir. Listen, we want that wall built. We want term limits imposed. We want to say no to amnesty and DACA. Now's the time to find our guts again as conservatives. We have nowhere else to go. We have nothing else to surrender, nothing else to compromise. The idea that we have to chase the Democrats towards socialism is nonsense. This is our time to stand in the gap and force this country back toward liberty, back toward the right. This is for all the marbles. We cannot lose this.
Chris McDaniel, what is the website again?
McDaniel2018.com. McDaniel2018.com.
All right, and we will post it on Mark Levin Show Facebook, Mark Levin Show Twitter, so it's there. And I want all you Levinites out there, please, we have a candidate a night, maybe two a night. I strongly endorse Chris McDaniel. I think it would be a solid conservative for Mississippi. But, you know, senators vote on issues that affect all of us. All of us. And I just can't imagine the people of Mississippi electing somebody who was a Hillary Clinton supporter for all those years. Chris McDaniel, we wish you all the best, sir.
God bless you, sir. Let's get out there and fight. Thank you.
All right. Amen. Take care of yourself. Keep an eye on that race, Chris McDaniel. Very, very important. That would be a shocker. That would shake up the system. And he's got a good shot at it. He just needs some support, needs some financial support. So I hope you'll check out my social sites and link on to his site and give him some help. Every one of these candidates we're bringing on this week and next week, they need support. Otherwise, I wouldn't bring them on. And there's a big debate in about an hour or so, again in Florida with DeSantis and Gillum. And I'm a strong DeSantis supporter. Was an outstanding member of the House of Representatives. They immediately tried to smear him as a racist, and enough is enough. This guy is an Iraq war veteran. This guy went to Harvard Law School. He's done everything the right way, everything you're supposed to. And more than that, he's a solid constitutional conservative and capitalist. He's running against a radical, used to work for People for the American Way, and was supported by George Soros. And the guy got a big push, big endorsement from the hard left, Bernie Sanders. Now he's trying to kind of dress it all up, which is what the hard left does, in order to deceive as many people as possible. And there's a lot of independents in Florida who are falling for this. And now on top of that, we see the corruption. There was an FBI sting on the guy and his administration. Well, what's it, just a ticket to Hamilton? You try and get a ticket to Hamilton. And you try and get a hotel. And you see what that costs, a couple of grand. And then there's Costa Rica. And there's other things, too. And then he claims the fact that you even raise these things means you're a racist. That you're talking about all African American men this way. What? I can't succeed on my own? What, are you going to stereotype me? When somebody hides behind that, you know they're not innocent. At least in my humble opinion. Just one man's opinion. All right. Claudio, Rockford, Illinois, the great WROK. Go.
Good evening, Mr. Levin. How are you?
Okay, thank you.
Okay, a lot of the topics and points that you make are typical ingredients of what is taking place in the destruction of Europe. And unfortunately, we in the U.S. are just mirroring that image. And I believe that that what we're seeing happening in this country is just it's just what they're seeing taking place in Europe, as far as the what they call them, you know, that they're migrants, they're people coming from the Syria, Sudan, and all these regions that are going through wars. And we have the media that is destroying everything and has their opinion and agenda. And they have in Europe the EU, which is people that are wearing suits but not appointed by anybody. They're dictating what's going on.